This month is mental health, World Mental Health Awareness Month, and so I thought I'd look at something that has to do with mental health rather than just schizophrenia specifically. Although May 24th, I believe, is World Schizophrenia Awareness Day, something like that. But this is a long article, and I wasn't going to read all of it. But you know what? I don't know if you wanna know what's going on with the teen boys today. It might be worth sitting through. You can just put it on play and go about your business. But if you never read this article, it's pretty interesting, and I think it's just right in the vein of what we're talking about on this channel here. So we're missing a major mental health crisis. Teen boys are struggling too. So that's a good way to open it, I guess. Teen boys are struggling too. Right? So we know there's a lot of things that have been today, especially a lot of attention being putting on females, girls, you know, and but I guess the boys are being left behind. So we're swinging the pendulum, hard the other way. And if we thought it was a problem before, well, you swing it hard this way, it's going to be a problem the other way as well, right? So Sheila Hedstrom-Pelger, a nurse in Chandler, Arizona, thought she knew the signs of depression. She had thought or sought professional help for her oldest son, Alex, when he admitted feelings of hopelessness, sadness, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts while in high school. Right, that's some heavy stuff for high school students. I was in my 20s when I was feeling those. But when her second son, Tyler, started verbally lashing out at her when he was a teen, Hedstrom-Pelger didn't consider depression as a possible cause for Tyler's out of character behavior. I took it personally, she said. I assumed he was upset with me. So that's a tough one. Only after Tyler's suicide at age 17 did Hedstrom-Pelger learn that irritability is a sign of depression and anxiety for many males, not just a boy being a boy or a boy being a teenager, she said. So, that's some signs that parents might want to look out for uh, in their sons. But hopelessness, feelings of hopelessness, sadness, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts. These are what I experienced with schizophrenia. Many of us with schizophrenia, other mental illness, experience these. You know, these are some heavy stuff to carry, and they really drag you down, man. They drag you down hard. So I definitely understand. Being a male is the biggest risk factor for suicide. Yet that fact isn't widely known, says Richard V. Reeves, author of Boys and Men, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, Why It Matters, and What to Do About It, Why the Modern Male is Struggling, and a senior fellow in economic studies at the Brookings Institution. In the United States, nearly 4 times as many males die of suicide than females, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Now we're living in Canada here, but in America, the U.S., whatever is there, tend to fall this way as well, right? So it's pertinent to us as well. I have been quite shocked by people's lack of awareness and just in general, man. Like, this is wherever you're at. This is good information. I haven't been quite shocked by people's lack of awareness of this problem, Reeve said. I've encountered people in very senior positions, including a professor who spoke on a panel about teen mental health and suicide, who don't know about the gender gap in suicide, and that's saying a lot. And I've heard people talk about, schizophrenia particularly, and it's like, you know, you just scratch your head sometimes. But who's supposed to be know all these things about it? But I've had members of Congress tell me I've got this the wrong way around. So that, so this is information that's just missing on all different levels, man. And that's really saying a lot. We have so much problems, and people aren't really catching on to some of these issues that's going on with our young people. Such confusion is understandable given the recent 2021 Youth Risk Behavior Survey, which show that girls are faring worse than boys nearly all across nearly all reported measures related to mental health challenges, experiences of violence, and suicidal thoughts and behaviors. Girls are certainly suffering to a very dark degree, but at the same time, boys are also not faring well. And that's saying a lot, right? Girls and boys are suffering. If girls are suffering to a very dark degree, and yet boys, the suicide rate is 4 times higher, it's an even darker degree, right? That's scary. That's very scary, you know. And it's definitely things that I even saw an article that says mental illness is on the rise, and now we have this thing. It's on the rise, right? With young boys, so teenage boys in particular, and I'm sure it's the same for young girls as well. That's on the rise, right? Teenage boys in particular are experiencing high levels of mental distress. The CDC's 2021 National Vital Statistics System showed a massive increase in male suicide among teens and young men. From 2020 to 2021, suicide rates for males rose significantly, according to the CDC, with the largest increase among males ages 15 to 24. Among this group, the suicide rate was up 8% in 2021 over 2020. Right, 8%. That's not good. Any percent isn't good, but 8%, that's kind of high for a year. Rees believes we could benefit from currently non-existent research or government organizations whose job it is to draw attention to the problems of boys and men. And I got no confidence in these people, really. Washington State recently filed a bill that would create a government commission on boys and men. He believes a lack of research contributes to a lack of understanding of male distress and depression. And the reason why I say that is because, like, how advanced are we today, man? We're talking about sending men, people to Mars, right? We're so we're getting so technologically advanced, man. We're uh, AI and all this stuff, and yet we need to understand male. We can't understand male distress. How can we understand all this science, right? All this technology, all this all this marvelous stuff, and yet the inner workings we're behind. Something's not right, man. Something's not right with uh, our focus, But even more, experts are also believe the increase in suicide comes down to how we misunderstand how societal expectations affects boys' well-being and emotional expression. Boys' human development has been compromised by the boyhood that we have built and managed for them for generations, said Michael C. Reichard, founding director of the Center for the Body or Study of Boys and Girls Lives at the University of Pennsylvania, and author of How to Raise a Boy: The Power of Connection to Build Good Men. Common societal expectations that boys should be strong and independent, for example, hamper boys' ability to acknowledge emotions and ask for help. Okay, so societal expectations, they're saying boys are conditioned not to ask for help, to not express their emotions. Said Stacy Friedenthal, licensed clinical social worker and author of Loving Someone with Suicidal Thoughts: What Family, Friends, and Partners Can Say and Do. This conditioning means that many boys and young men are unlikely to say when they're feeling sad. And I think there needs to be a balance with this when you're talking about uh, that boys should be strong and independent, and that that's a problem. I don't think that's necessarily a problem. I think boys and girls should be learn to be strong and independent, because you know what, I think you can't just be weak-minded and follow every the crowd, follow friends into bad situation. You need to be strong enough to say no. You need to be strong enough to say, I don't feel this is right. I think we should, maybe go someplace else, or not do this or not do that. There is value in being strong and independent minded. and to say no, and I think that is strength, is to be able to speak your heart, right? To stand alone and to speak what you're thinking, what you're feeling, right? So there needs to be a balance and understanding of what being strong and independent mean, right? It means being strong enough to say how you're feeling, and if you need help, to talk to somebody, right? So I just think that that's good, but we need to really uh, clarify that, as because it's not a bad thing in and of itself, being strong and independent, right? So because we're conditioned to not express sadness, boys and men experience depression. Uh, Experiencing depression may be exhibited through anger, aggression, and irritability, fatigue, and loss of interest in school or hobbies, according to the National Institute of Mental Health. In 2021, YRBS asked about sad feelings and hopelessness, but it didn't ask about anger or irritability, which may be why the survey detected high levels of female depression and missed boys' despair. So high levels of female depression. So females are getting depressed too. We have so much social media, so much technology in our hands, so much connection from friends in the world, and yet we're feeling lonely, yet we're feeling depressed, yet we're feeling there's no one we can talk to, no one we can connect with. How in the freaking world is that we have this a connection, the internet, to connect, and yet we can't connect? So something is wrong. Are we trading one form of connection to for another form of connection, something that's a connection that really does not connect us? So we are harmed in the process because we neglected the true connection that we've used to value. There's some evidence that we might be under detected depression in men due to the questions we ask, we said. Tyler's mom, Hedstrom-Pelger, said that symptoms he exhibited, withdrawal, irritability, a new circle of friends, were not things I would have connected with depression and anxiety until after I learned more. Now she tells other parents, if your kid lashes out at you, don't be so quick to ground them or take their phone away. Let them walk away, and a little bit later check in and say, what was that all about? Is something wrong? I'm wondering if that's what she did to her son. She said to her son, I wish she responded to his situation, and maybe she just has that regret, which that's got to be tough as a parent to look back. And I often say regret is a hell of a thing, but you can't go back and right those wrongs. You just gotta learn from it, and it seems like that's what she's doing, and trying to help other people, um, you know. But I think, yeah, definitely having communication and talking to your loved ones, talking to your sons, your daughters, and to really find out what's going on is really where it's at. Jaden, a 16-year-old who's active in Arizona's Students for Mental Health, a nonprofit developed by students to address suicide and mental health, said that boys who are experiencing anxiety, depression, or other mental health challenges might not come right out and say, I'm struggling. Instead, he said they may withdraw or act uncharacteristically, like Hedstrom-Pelger's son Tyler did. And that's right, young boys, sometimes, maybe some, like they were saying, that's that old way of being, but it's definitely things that parents could pay attention to, and really work with, helping the child, recognizing these signs, and get them the help they may need. First, open the doors of communication, and then really find out what's going on. So Jaden's feelings are not uncommon, Reigard said, because society has long implied that boys and men should be strong and unemotional. Now I don't know what society that is, but not where I grew up. At least in my place, my mom, my house, my family's. But I do understand that, as a man, yeah, sometimes you if you're crying for certain reasons, your buddies might just hit you here or there. But um, I think I guess it's more societal. I'm looking more as family, but sometimes your peers, uh, they're their expression has more value than your parents, right? And then what's in your house. So, yeah, I can definitely see that societal issue. Um, and so many guys keep things to themselves because they can't find any other outlet. And that's the thing, right? If I have an outlet, sometimes it's through sports, sometimes it's through, it's through work. It's through just different things. Sometimes there's no outlet, nothing that's actually created. Then you find an outlet, and sometimes it's violence. When boys kind of reach that tipping point, sometimes, and we've seen some of these young boys, the whole society feels it. And that's why we really need to pay attention and help young boys, because sometimes, yeah, they take themselves, but sometimes they want to take everybody else. And I've been on both end of that, right? As a man, that isolation seems to be the defining feature and cause of teen male distress. The way the mental health problems of young men and young women present themselves is not just different, but diametrically opposed. Where you said, with the girls, it's their relationships and relationships to the world that can become so problematic. With boys, it's retreat from the world and lack of relationship. That's the problem. Yeah, retreat from the world. That's mental illness. Does that as well. Mental health, mental illness. These, because I don't know if they really know what this boy was suffering from. And a lot of these young boys, sometimes it could be mental illness issues, right? Mental health issues for sure, but we don't know what people are experiencing. And sometimes as parents, as siblings, we are so careless with our words, because we see people who are going through certain things, and we just disrespect them, throw some casual words about how they're weak and they're this and they're that. And you have somebody there, a family member, that's experiencing the same thing, and they're thinking, well, that's how you think of me. If I come out and say something, that's what you think of me, right? So now they don't want to say anything, because it's just met with that kind of a thought, and it's sort of really need to manage our own words, our own behavior, and how we look at people suffering, and uh, how we communicate that, and not just be so careless, but to really consider what other people are going through, and to have a heart of compassion. And if they see us having a compassionate heart towards a stranger, towards somebody else is suffering, then they're going to know that they can come and talk to us, and we're going to have a compassionate heart for them, because they're family, right? So, 15% of young men today don't have a close friend, according to the American Perspective Survey, and many young men aged 18 to 23 feel that nobody really knows them, according to research Reichard is conducting. This lack of connection may explain why so many boys are struggling silently. And one of the ways that parents raising the children is we got to really do a better job, because we can't allow just the TV and these things to take control, and to just think that they're okay because they're quiet or this or that. But people really need to learn about who they are inside. We need to have quiet time. We need to sit down as a family. We need to really get to know each other and get to know ourselves, because a lot of times things creep upon you, and you don't even know how to deal with certain things, because you never really saw it in your heart earlier on, right? You didn't learn how to be comfortable in yourself. And sometimes when that comes on you, and because you've never really looked into your heart and saw who you are, and saw um, you know what maybe you're lacking, and then learn to build up some resistance, some confidence as you grow, so that when you're in a bigger environment, you already have the tools necessary to deal with certain things, right? Like, nobody knows me, nobody cares about me. Well, you know what? It's if we have the understanding that it's not, sometimes we sit there and we keep our heads down and we keep quiet, and we want other people to talk to us, but we don't want to reach out. We don't want to reach out and talk to somebody else. Say hi, how you doing? And sometimes you try and people, mock you or laugh at you, but then we kind of make us want to withdraw. But to have the understanding on why we shouldn't just quit because we got shot down after the first try or two, right? But sometimes we gotta reach out to somebody else, ask somebody, how are you doing? How's your day? How what are you up to? Because if we take interest, if we teach our young children how to take interest in somebody else, then guess what? Somebody else is going to take interest in them. If I ask how you're doing, you're going to ask me, how am I doing? What am I up to? And we can build connections and relationships like that. But oftentimes we become so disconnected from everybody else that we just become so self-centered. It's all about us, and we don't think outside of ourselves. And that's kind of how I had to get out of my part of my dark area that I was experiencing. Was I had to go out there and I start talking to people. I had to stop waiting for people to come to me. I had to start going and meet people where they're at, ask how they're doing, take some thought for other people, take some concern for people. And sometimes it wasn't like I'd go on the streets and I'd walk and say hi to people who I didn't want to be out there, didn't terrified, but I had to do that because I needed to get out of myself, get out of my head, right? And I had to put myself in those situations where and sometimes people would just won't even acknowledge me, heads down, head straight, walked right past me. And you know what? I was good because you know what? It wasn't about them. I just had to extend myself. Whether they wanted to meet me or not, it was not they. It was didn't matter. You know what I'm saying? Because I was climbing somewhere. And so it's teaching people how to navigate this inner world, teaching our young one how to navigate that space, how to grow, then why we have struggles in life, why they're necessary, why some of these challenges now are don't have to be stumbling stones. They can be stepping stones that can help us reach higher in life, but something adults themselves don't have this understanding, so they can't impart that to their children, right? So, but I do think having like reaching out instead of wanting to be reached it could be beneficial in many ways. We've had 70 suicides in 5 years, says Katie McPherson, an educational consultant who's been tracking teen suicide in Phoenix's East Valley, a 15 to 20 square mile area since 2015. Of those, I'd say 90% of them were boys. That's a lot. John Sifsik, a 30-year-old licensed associate counselor working in a Monmouth, New Jersey high school, said students routinely ask him to check on friends they are worried about, but he also said that those who seek his help have skewed far more heavily toward girls reaching out with concern about other girls. I can't think of a single boy who's coming concerned about another boy. Usually, boys, you think I'm good. My boy is good too. Um, we don't really pay attention. Girls pay more attention than boys sometimes, right? And maybe think something might be wrong because something they saw or heard. Boys we usually just maybe caught up with ourselves, worrying about this and that. We usually think our friends are good because as long as we're good, there's nothing to worry about, right? So, but it's definitely a lesson that something we could pick up more of, learn from the girls, is to be more concerned about our male friends, and to even if we don't think there's anything wrong, if we haven't heard from them in a day, a couple of days or whatever, check in on them. If there's we used to have a regular schedule and that's not broken, just see what's going on, what's up, and that's things that's good to impart. Despite the persistent threats to male mental health, Rygaard believes there's never been a better time to be raising a boy. We've finally broken through the taboo and allowed ourselves to question why we're doing what we're doing if it's not working. I don't know about that, if that's the best time, but hey, I guess it's, in a lot of ways it is, I guess, but in a lot of ways it's not. He said boys just like girls, and I guess it depends how you look at it. I look at things a little different, I guess. Just like girls and non-binary children need care, compassion, and validation. So boys need, just like girls and non-binary children, need care, compassion, and validation. Yeah, we need that, and we need understanding. This is such a big thing that people don't really talk about. We need understanding. You understand? We need to consider things. We need to look at the world in a broader way, but we need to be instructed at a younger age, and to really learn to think, learn to pull ourselves out of the moments and to really think on a higher level, to really consider things, not just accept everything as they are and move with the emotions and the moment and think that all there is to it, you know. And I think that's so necessary in society, in adults and children. Awareness of boys' mental health needs is a step to arresting the male suicide crisis. Parents need to know that being male is the biggest risk factor for suicide. We said the chances of your son taking his life by suicide are about 4 times higher than your daughter's. But no, that doesn't mean you should neglect your daughter or all of a sudden swing the pendulum hard back the other way and just say, "Oh, my daughter's good." You gotta make sure you still have your family time, and then you have your one-on-one time with your sons, your daughters, and make sure everyone is being looked after and feel loved and feel like they're appreciated and feel like they have a voice and they can be heard and they can come to you and they can talk to you and so that there's a balance between the love that's going around, right? Delighting, and cause sometimes that's what happens when people hear these things. Sometimes it's just a hard shift the other way, just like how you, it was all men, men, men before, and now it's like the women empowerment stuff. So now it's like, oh, forget the boys, it's all the way to the girls, right? And so now they're coming back and say, yeah, well, now boys are hurting. Okay, now all the way to the boys. We can't do that. We can't be doing the same thing. We got to make sure to be balanced with this. So delighting in our boys is the next and perhaps most essential step, Reichardt said. Instead of focusing on our boys' behaviors and flaws, encourages parents to find a way through all the insecurities, doubts, and worries you have and locate the place in your heart where you can be delighted with your son. Spend dedicated time with him, exactly, doing what he likes without lecturing, scolding, and coercing. And that's why, I grew up in a single parent home, and one of the things that's necessary for young boys to have a father figure in a home, right? I never had a father figure, and so I didn't grow up not knowing what it was to be a man. You know what I mean? Like I didn't have any. So what I do is you look at TV and movies and music, and you find idols out there, and that's who you follow, right? So you definitely need to have you know because men look at the world differently than women, right? So have a father who's able, if the situation is there, um, uh, who can maybe understand the boy a bit better, you know. 'Cause sometimes mom, she don't get it. She don't get some of your, you know, insecurities, some of the things that you're dealing with, and might not have the right words because she's looking at it from more of a female perspective. Just like a father might not have the words for his daughter because he's looking at it from a man's perspective. So definitely having two parents in the home, or at least in the very least a part of the children's lives, you know, and both parents should have a connected relationship, at least be friends and work together because it's not about you at this point. It's about your kids. It's about their well-being, right? Delighting in our boys is the next and perhaps the most essential step. Uh, so it says encourages parents to find a way through all the insecurities, doubts, to be delighted in their. Oh yeah, I already read this. So parents have enormous power to validate their son's existence. Reichard said, "Delight is like sunlight to you, a young man. The more you beam it toward him, the more he's going to feel safe, and the more likely uh, he'll be to open up to you." I like that. Delight is like sunlight to a young man. The more you beam it toward him, the more he's going to feel safe, the more likely he'll be to open up to you. And I think when I hear that, I I think it's like, your attention, your smile, your attitude on your child is like the sun. It's like a light that beams down on them. And your children are like tender plants. They're like a flower, and the flower grows towards the sun and it opens up towards the sun, and that's what you want. You want to be a light, you want them to grow and open up towards you, you know, to have that trust, to have that openness that they can just show you everything. They can give you everything, you know, and knowing that you're going to return to them with warmth, So I think that's just such a great way to put it, right? This one says remove firearms to decrease suicide risk. Another reason boys' suicide rates are higher than girls may be because males are generally more impulsive than females, particularly as adolescents. Boys tend to boys tend to mature and develop at a slower rate than girls, said Friedenthal. Boys also tend to choose more violent and lethal methods of suicide than girls do. Removing firearms from your home can dramatically reduce suicide risk, according to the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Most people in suicidal crises who don't have easy access to a lethal suicide method will not simply find another way to kill themselves. Locking up guns is not as protective as removing them from the home, Friedenthal said, as motivated teenagers can figure out how to get past locks, and there's some truth to that as well. It's easy um, putting bam, it's a lot, it is quick, it's easy, and I can understand why that's a consideration here. This is a thought that I've uh, harbored myself. It's a direction that I myself want to go, and you know, it's definitely there's definitely some truth to this, but that's something for the gun owners have to decide and really consider. Um, but you know, hopefully, I'm gonna end this right now because, like I said, it's a long article, it's a long video. But hopefully, you were able to take something from this and to really, you know, um, think about this because this is our present and our future is not looking good. It's not looking good, right? There's a host of mental health problems in our society today, and it's manifesting at a incredible rate, and mental health, mental illness, uh, it's I think we're in a lot of trouble. We're in a lot of trouble as a society, um, and I don't think we have what it takes to respond to this in a way that's going to fix the problem, right? I don't think so. Maybe I'm a pessimist. I think things are been getting worse, and we what we're doing as a society is we're making the problems worse, and we're not. It doesn't seem we are serious about fixing some of these things, and I think we're in trouble. I think this article is pointing to that, and boys, females, adults, everybody's feeling it, right? And if the adults are feeling it, how the heck are they going to have the sense, the understanding to help their children, right? You know, um, so I think we're you know. Anyway, that's it for me. Until next time, later.